Right, well this is a sort of, does it make you feel better or does it not video? I haven't put out a lot of content on my other stuff for a while because I've been focusing on things in the village to try and sort shit out there. By the way, before we go any further, there will be noise from the radio because I'm working on a site where they want you to have a radio and they all talk. So you're going to get that. So at school, growing up, I was made to feel like there was something wrong with me. I couldn't get what the others were getting. There was no explanation for it. My school reports were always, Simon could do better, Simon needs to apply himself more, Simon needs to stop dreaming, lazy, all of that sort of stuff. As a consequence, the teachers gave up with me, and also I gave up. Now, as a kid, my parents, my dad was not a rich man by any means, right? He was struggling actually, but he thought he would give us a better chance if he sent us to private school. So my first school was a private school that was very, very good, and I was doing Latin and stuff like that. I had no problem there because the teachers were generally better. Anyway, we hit recession, ran out of money, and not just that, the kids were taking the piss out of my parents driving up there in a Cortina and them having a Jag or a Rolls. So when I beat the shit out of these kids, it was considered probably a better idea that I left. It is what it is. So I went to 2 private schools. The first one was fine, I went through that, and then I went to the next one, and they were full of assholes, by the way. So, it puts me back into state school. I'm doing beautiful joined up writing, and I'm doing, well, I do bits of Latin and stuff, and now they're doing and they're like, and now looking back at it, what it was a state school that was going under a curriculum that, if you look back far enough, was designed by the likes of the Rockefeller Foundation to actually dumb people down. It's actually been proven now that they worked out that, going back along, that if you had as many free thinkers who were actually allowed to develop properly, you'd have your problems, because what they would do is they would work out that there was a massive group of globalist individuals which were raping the planet of every mineral resource going, whilst robbing countries, paying people slave labour, polluting the country, all that kind of other stuff you get anyway, right? So, they dumbed you down. And this state system certainly did for me. I switched off. So when I eventually left school, bearing in mind, my father was very, very disappointed with me. One summer holiday, he was so sick and tired of my results being 2 years below my age at least, that he grounded me for the entire summer holidays, and I had to do my times table back to front, left to right, and he would fire questions at me, now under pressure, and when you didn't get it right, you were in a lot of trouble. And that was my summer holiday, watching kids go out, and I couldn't do it. It wasn't nice. Anyway, things were different back then, and he was probably trying to do what he thought was best for me, but it is what it is. We move on. So, I've left. I went to my first proper job, worked in an office, and I was doing stupid stuff, and they basically said, "What, are you thick or something?" Well, what I was doing was filing. What you would do is you get something, oh, I've got it here, you get something like a piece of paper where there's like 3 sheets, goes through a printer. One sheet would go to the parts department, one sheet would stay with the service department, and the other sheet would go to the mechanic. It'd be like a job card. And at the end of the day, what you were meant to do is bring them all back together, staple them back together and file them. I couldn't do that. I couldn't get the numbers right. I was getting all the numbers wrong. And also I was getting letters where numbers were, letters were, blindness, and they let me go. Which was, well, it didn't make me feel very good at all. And I thought I was a fucking idiot. I knew that I could get stuff, and I knew that I saw things from a different way to other people. I'd never wanted to be part of the pack. I wasn't particularly very sporting. I didn't feel the need to compete with anybody, but I looked at life in a different way. I knew it, I couldn't explain it, and I found it better to keep my mouth shut, because as I couldn't understand what the fuck was going on, better to say nothing, right? Anyway, finally I go to the doctor about something else, can't remember what it was, I think it was eczema or whatever, and I said to her, look, I've got this problem, I'm doing this, straight away just come out and said, well, you're dyslexic then, aren't you? And when I looked it up, because I knew nothing about dyslexia, it turns out my uncle's dyslexic, my cousins are dyslexic, something that runs in the family. And I'd always worked different ways to try and work my way around this dyslexia, not to show it because I was embarrassed. Which is, now I'm not, but back then I was, because I just thought it was thick. A while back, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years ago, I went online and did this Mensa test, right? And it was just a simple test, it wasn't the full test. And basically they said, because I completed it, right, and in a very short space of time, they came back and said, you need to come in and see us. And it basically said, genius, right? Something like that. And I went, yeah, right, whatever, carried on. The other day I decided, fuck it, I'll do a proper test. So I did a test, sent off, came back 136. Now, given the fact I'm dyslexic, right, they call that double gifted. You're in the top 1%, even though some of the questions you ain't going to get right because you simply can't. Like, I can't do my alphabet. I have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but I can't think of it in my mind. I can't go backwards, right? And if somebody says D, I have to go from A all the way through, and sometimes I'll still get it wrong. Things like that. Spelling, can't spell for shit. Never have, never will, right? That was another thing I used to get bollocking off my dad for. But I still managed to get that. And what it's kind of done is vindicated me in some ways, right? That I know I'm not stupid, right? But you see things differently. And you're not part of the, you know, the group that used to tell you all about, they'd sit around and talk about what football had gone on, and some of the conversations that they come up with, you'd look at them and you go, this is fucking mind-numbing. And what really worried me was they were meant to be the in crowd, and I didn't want to talk about, or wasn't really remotely interested in what they were doing. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm a fucking loner here. I have mates and all the rest of it. You know, quite a lot of friends actually, but what I was worried about as a young lad is not fitting in some ways. I didn't, part of me was like, fuck you, I don't want to fit in, but part of me was like, why can't I fit in? And I didn't know. And the simple thing is, your head's working in a different space to theirs. You're thinking about different things. You're not better or worse, you're just working differently. And the one thing I've came to terms with straight away, that this IQ test means nothing in some ways, and a little bit in other ways. It kind of indicates you in some ways, but it still doesn't change the fact that I still have troubles remembering names, dates. When I spell, it's all wrong. I can put letters where numbers are letters because that's a dyslexia, and that is a problem, all right? And it's not going to help me make any more money. And the other thing is, somebody will say, well, your IQ's that and you drive a lorry. Yeah, I do. And what? Why do you drive a lorry if you're that intelligent? Simply for the fact that I always wanted to drive a lorry. Also, I don't like being around other fucking humans a lot, unless they're humans I pick. Many of you will understand this, right? Because you find the average, I've had my 17th vax, do you know what's happening in EastEnders? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Irksome, to say the least. You can't even begin to imagine where these fucking idiots are coming from, because it's beyond irretrievably boring, right? When you talk to them, they say, well, what do you do at night? I say, I'll go and watch a documentary about, I don't know, the Second World War. I'll watch about the Cold War. I'll watch about this. I'll watch about that. I'd like to know more about that. And they go, well, that's fucking boring, that is. Well, yeah, it would be to you, because that's not what you're into. But I suppose this is a video that if anybody else has ever experienced what I'm telling you, what I went through, this is only a basic, right? And your mind is chaos. Mine used to be. Also, going through all that, you are more prone to things like depression. You're more prone to anxiety because you overthink. Many things that you put down to, I don't know, just emotionally weak. You're not. You're over-processing everything you're going through. You're over-processing because you're picking up on a lot more things. Now, don't just take my word for it. People have put lots of different information out there about this and about the side effects, because it has its good sides and it has its bad sides. The good side is, you're never bored. My mind is flat out thinking of all the different situations that I'm going to go through. Also, if I've got something I want to do, how we're going to solve this problem, so many other things that my mind's on the go all the time, which is why I chose to be alone in a truck. Because if I was in an office with people, it would just fuck me off. And being alone at home, the solitude, people go, oh, don't you get lonely? Oh, I've got a lot to be getting on with upstairs. But yeah, I suppose it's just to anybody out there who might think that, you know, oh, I didn't do very well at school. I left with virtually no qualifications. I had this SMPG course, which was basically for basic kids, because I was in basic classes at school, believe it or not. I find that now kind of funny and ironic. But I was in basic classes for maths, English lang and English lit. I got an E and an F for that, right? Which is quite funny, really. I got a C for Spanish and a C for science, and the rest of it I couldn't even remember the dates and didn't show up for. One teacher, he says, look, you're not here, I'll just sign you in.
Yeah, I'm ready to go now, but I'll go after this lorry, okay, when he comes in.
He said, I'll just sign you in, otherwise you can just sit at the back and play your headphones.
Do that, mate.
Believe it or not, it was history, which is my favourite subject. But there it is. Anyway, I'm on here, I got a tip, but just a thought. If you think you're daft, there's a very chance that you're not. Especially if you're into the same sort of things that we're into, about worrying about the future.
Until you give him the soup.
And all the rest of it. Anyway, got to get off. Got to do some work.